This video is brought to you by my generous backers over on Patreon. If you'd like to support the channel and get cool perks like access to the Discord, seeing the videos a week before anyone else, or an entire video dedication, then feel free to check out my Patreon. The link's in the description below. A budget matchup today. Kenrith, the Returned King, versus Etali Primal Storm, Gallia of the Endless Dance, and Okaun, Eye of Chaos, along with Zndrplt, Eye of Wisdom. A bunch of lands, and if it wasn't for that outpost siege, I wouldn't actually keep that, but I am going to, because we've got a bunch of our colours there. We've actually got all of our colours except blue. We actually don't run much blue in the deck, so I'm hoping that that's going to be okay. We've got a turn 4 and 5 play at least. Turn 1 play coming from Go Batman, a patron of the channel. That is a Boreal Druid. And we've got Dolfo on Okaun and Zndrsplt. And a turn 1 play from an internet random because we couldn't get enough patrons together. Bloodlust Inciter. And we draw into a Guild Gate. Yeah, we'll definitely get down our tap land. So we've actually got all of our colours there. So we're doing quite well considering this is a budget 5 colour deck. Now Krenko Tin Street Kingpin coming down for Go. Followed by Runaway Steamkin for the Etali player. And then giving the Runaway Steamkin haste. And that comes in at us. Alright, a Sky Knight Legionnaire will be able to play that on turn 3, so we've got plays for turn 3, 4 and 5 now. And the budget for these decks is, it turns out it's around 20 tickets on Magic Online, which is based around $100 USD. And we have included the price of the commanders in this budget. So if there's any budget players out there, you can play any of these decks for $100. Probably won't be able to get you the deck list for Etali because it is a random. We were supposed to be playing with 3 other patrons, but a couple of them didn't show up. Luckily Go was around. Lightning Bolt going on to Runaway Steamkin, by the way. And the commander has come down. So they swing in with everything. And that will trigger both Krenko and Gallia. And all 3 of these coming in at us, so apparently Kenrith is someone to be feared. And discarding Kari Zev to the Gallia. Now a Midnight Reaper. I mean, we're not going to be able to block with either of those, really. Because we don't want to lose our creatures. We'll just go Sky Knight Legionnaire. Try and show our opponents that we're not really all that much of a threat. I don't hold out much hope for this deck, to be honest. I actually had a lot of trouble getting it below $100 because I'm not much of a budget player. Prices are way less expensive on Magic Online, so you can play pretty much anything you want once you've got a collection going. Boom power from the coin flipping player now. Flip a coin, if you win, destroy all non-land permanents. And Dolfo did say that he's had a lot of luck with this deck. He's been doing really well with it, so we'll have to see if everyone continues to pile in at us. Oh, now a Hell Rider. Go is throwing everything out onto the field. But as long as they can keep their commander in play, they should keep their hand full with cards. And this time everything going in at Dolfo. They will still get the trigger from Gallia, so they'll keep a couple of cards in hand at least. They'll still get the trigger from Gallia, so that will gain them some cards, and forcing Dolfo to flip a coin here. But not managing to wipe the board, so going to take a big hit. So Dolfo plummets down to 23, and now after a Crystal Vein, the Etali comes down, and Etali can come down with haste. It is going in at Go, who has definitely proven themselves to be the biggest threat thus far. And they get themselves a Legion Loyalist command tower over there, and they exiled a land from us. Then blocking with a goblin, as you would expect, and there's a Gilded Lotus. So if the game goes on long enough, we should be able to cast anything we like, really, because we're doing quite well on mana, surprisingly. We'll just throw out an Outpost Siege, and it's Khans we want, I think. Exile the top card and you can play it. Yes, we'll say Khans. Dolfo this time successful with the boom pile, so wiping the board. Unfortunately, getting rid of our Outpost Siege in the process, but they could just as easily have lost that flip. Then going for Desperate Ritual. Most likely into a commander from here. And it's Zndrsplt they go in for, so at the beginning of combat on your turn you flip a coin until you lose. Whenever a player wins a flip, draw a card. Not as likely to see Mana Crypt at this table, because it's so expensive in paper, so not going to see as many coin flips as Dolfo would like, I'm sure. Go Batman immediately, getting a bunch more stuff down. There's an Ornithopter, a Hasty Torch Courier, and a Goblin token comes down with Legion Warboss, and they go in at Etali. Etali's mana has plummeted. They get down Hall of the Bandit Lords, so speaking of their mana plummeting, they instantly fix that with a Basalt Monolith, but tapping it surprisingly. Alright, going in for Pristine Talisman, so it's probably going to take them a few turns to get their commander back out, because they'll have to untap the Basalt Monolith. Let's go Plains into the Gilded Lotus, and then we'll go for the Icon of Ancestry as well. See if we can actually start getting some knights. I don't know if I've mentioned this or not, but it is Knight Tribal. Upon actually building the deck, I don't think I would recommend a budget version of Knight Tribal, because a lot of the really good Knight cards are, well, they're over budget. Things like Knight Exemplar and the Kithkin Knight that gives double strike. There's the Metalcraft one that makes equip costs 0. There's not many equipments in here, I just went for sheer knights, trying to flood the board with them. There is the second commander coming down, so both Okaun and Zndrsplt are now in play together. Luckily Zndrsplt does not have haste. Luckily Okaun does not have haste. But let's see how powerful it gets, because this thing can lay commander damage on you in no time flat. See, there you go, that becomes a 48-48. And Dolfo goes up to 9 cards in hand. Oh, there's more coin flips to come yet. Going up to 10 cards, and it's a 96-96. Then discarding down to 7 at the end step is an Anticipate and a land. And Go just continuing to get dorks down. And deciding to give that thing haste with the Torch Courier. So it attacks each combat available, and you discard your hand and draw 3 when it attacks. And they are going in at Etali again, it looks like. And they discard a Chaos Warp and a Forest. Surprised they discarded Chaos Warp there, with this thing in play. Then again, this thing might not be able to get through all their tokens, so perhaps they're relying on Okaun to take both of us out, and then they can use their cards to try and go wide on Dolfo. That might be the tactic. A Rotothopter now, as well as an Elvish Mystic, but they are down to 1 card in hand. So I see Dolfo winning this one, unless someone can wipe the board. Well, it's not quite wiping the board, but gain control of all creatures with power 4 or less. Untap them and they gain haste, so Okaun could take out Dolfo here, which is probably the thing to do, because they're going to get their Okaun and Zndrsplt back next turn, and that means that they're just going to swing straight back in at Etali, most likely. So an interesting game so far. Wasn't expecting the gameplay to be so fast in budget. Yeah, and making the right decision in my opinion. Okaun going in at Dolfo. Then a bunch of dorks going in at Go. We have shown ourselves to be absolutely zero threat this game. Apparently I need to up my budget building capabilities. But Etali is going to discard their hand and draw 3 here, so they'll go down a couple of cards. I don't know if they remembered that ability from Onyé's Ravager. They discarded Infectious Bloodlust, Pilgrim's Eye, a Manolith, a Mountain, and Nyx Lotus. So taking out Delpho with his own commander, and Gallia's stuff all goes back over to Gogo's side of the field. We get into even more mana. So why don't we just go in for our commander here? We'll go in for our commander and the Midnight Reaper, I think, and then we can try and get some card advantage off of the Icon of Ancestry next turn. Kenrith comes down, a Midnight Reaper comes down with him, and we could have given all of our stuff haste and trample, but really don't see the point of that at this point. We just have to hope to draw into some good stuff. Copperhorn Scout coming down now from Gogo, followed by a Beast Whisperer, so that should keep them in cards. They are at 0, so they'll have to top deck a creature off the top. They don't have their commander in play, so they won't be discarding some cards, but they will draw off of Onye's Ravager. Forgot about that. So that takes them up to 3. And I'm missing something here. It won't let me block these two things, so we'll just have to go with blocking something else. We'll just block the Mana Dork and a token. Thran Dynamo from Etali, so definitely concentrating on ramping up to their Etali. I don't think they can afford to get it out though. Just using the mana to untap the Monolith. Oh, and sorry, I've completely... yeah, the client can be a bit goofy sometimes with seeing who's attacking whom. The Onye's Ravager and the Legion Warboss weren't actually attacking us, which is obviously why we couldn't block them. So, wise attacks from Gogo there. And Alloy Mia comes down, that is haste, tap, add 1 mana of any colour. Apparently we can't draw into anything except lands this game. So we'll get that down. Do we want to reanimate anything? We could reanimate ourselves a Hell Rider, there's Krenko. How much mana do we have? We've got 5 there and 5 there. We could reanimate 2 things with Kenrith and hold up the Icon of Ancestry if we don't want to reanimate something. So yeah, let's just hold off for now, and we'll try and make attacks difficult for them. So much for this being a Knight tribal deck. Warhorn now, attacking creatures you control get +1 to their power, followed by Satyr Grove Dancer. It enters the battlefield, put a plus counter on a creature, and Beast Whisperer will draw them a card there. So with Beast Whisperer and Onye's Ravager, our opponents keeping themselves in cards quite nicely. Plus counter goes on the flyer. Then we'll see if our opponent wants to turn everything sideways at Etali. They are throwing a whole heap of damage in at us. It was just these 2 that went in at Etali again. So everything else coming in at us. We'll wait for our opponent to discard the 3 cards in hand, because there might be something good for us to reanimate. They got rid of a Skyfire Phoenix. So if they cast their commander, they'll be able to get that back out, and we don't really want that. Plus we need some blockers for flyers anyway. Oh, and can you tell I've never played with Kenrith before? It puts it onto the battlefield under its owner's control, not yours. Yeah, I thought that was a really good effect. Alright, well, apparently we're going to have to get another budget game in after this, because I don't know what my own commander does. We'll get down the Sky Knight Legionnaire. At least that's a blocker in the air. So we just gave our opponent the Phoenix back for nothing, although they were probably going to get that back when they recast Gallia next turn anyway. I don't know if they can afford their Gallia actually, I can't remember how many times it's died. We will get rid of that Thopter, and then we'll block a Goblin, block the 3/3, because that is card draw for our opponent. The Alloy Mia went down there, so still leaving Gallia with a bunch of creatures in play. And down comes Etali. So Etali comes straight down. It does have haste thanks to Hall of the Bandit Lord. And they managed to get a Smitten Swordmaster from us. And they exiled a land off the top of Gallia's library. And that is going in at Gallia, so forcing them to block with a Goblin. Don't really see how we're going to deal with this Gallia deck, to be honest. I suppose I could give all creatures trample and haste, and allow Etali to trample through some damage. They throw down Skittering Surveyor as well, by the way. Okay, even more mana for us. Firemind Vessel. Let's see if we can do anything with an Icon of Ancestry. We just get an Embereth Shieldbreaker, and then it was just a Wayfarer's Bauble and a tap land on top. So we'll cast Display first. We'll get rid of the Ornithopter, and then cast the Embereth Shieldbreaker. Then I think we'll just go for the card draw with Kenrith as opposed to Firemine Vessel. We don't have any red to hold up for Kenrith's Trample, unfortunately. Yeah, could have held that up with the Gilded Lotus, but not to worry. We will continue to hold back. Gallia of the Endless Dance coming down again now, so they would have gotten that Phoenix back anyway. So I don't feel too bad about animating that. All we did was waste mana that we could have put into the Icon of Ancestry. Arnie's Ravager continuing to pile in, and it might be time. That's going in at Etali. Might be time to buff something of theirs, so that we can get rid of that. Discarding some cards, they get rid of Shock, Drakuseth, and Hazaret, as well as a Mountain. And it's just everything going in at the Etali player, so we'll see how they block, and then we'll decide if we want to go for any buffs on them. Alright, they're actually, yeah, I like that. They're going for a block with Smitten Swordmaster, which will put it back in our graveyard, ready for us to reanimate. So they're actually deciding to gang up on Arnie's Ravager, which is really good. So taking a hit for 4 from the Phoenix, and the Ravager finally goes down. Etali going back in at Go-Go. We're being largely ignored this game, but it's because we've pretty much done nothing. Revealing a Hedron Crawler from their own deck and a Tin Street Dodger from their own. Haven't been looking at their exile pile actually. They have exiled from themselves Cathartic Reunion and a Mountain before now. And obviously they just get rid of yet another land off the top of our library. Go-Go deciding to take the hit surprisingly, so they will go up to 6 points of commander damage. And then at the end of the turn we will grab our Knight back, just so that we've got more blockers. Guardian Project, that's not terrible. Let's play the Swamp. We'll get ourselves into the Guardian Project, and welcome to Magic Online. Etali decided to scoop it up, which does not feel good. So apologies for that. We were supposed to play against 3 patrons today. Luckily Go-Go picked up the slack, but a couple of patrons didn't show up. So this is what happens, unfortunately. We'll put something into the Icon of Ancestry. Alright, what have we got there? Inspiring Veteran for a buff. And then its toughness equal to the number of knights. When it attacks, another target knight you control gains indestructible. I think I would rather have... I'd rather have the buff, to be honest. Draw a card with the Guardian Project for playing a creature. Getting to Worthy Knight. And we can't play that, unfortunately. But what we can do is give all of our creatures haste, as well as trample, and then we'll have to see if we can outrace our opponent. If they gang up on anything, we don't really care. Apart from our Kenrith, we don't want them to gang up on that, although do we care about Kenrith? Yeah, if they want to gang up on Kenrith, they can do. So we'll turn everything sideways at our opponent, and they're deciding to spread the blocks around by the looks of it. Okay, getting rid of this thing, and the rest of the damage will go through. So there we go, we get rid of their commander as well as another creature. We've got something to reanimate now as well, and because this died, we drew into Myriad Landscape off of the Midnight Reaper. Unfortunately, Go-Go is hovering at 1 life, and has now 4 cards in hand after playing a land. Signal Pest, that's a really good one. And then Gallia comes down again, and it's... yeah, whenever you attack with 3 or more creatures, she does include herself there. But it looks like our opponent is just passing it over. I think all we have to do is go wide on them here. Knight's Charge is... yeah, I mean, that's just a means of winning the game right now, isn't it? So we go Knight's Charge. We'll go for Worthy Knight. That will draw us a card. Gets us into Idyllic Tutor. That's really for Cathar's Crusade. We will reanimate. the creature that just died, which will draw us another card. Oh, Mirren Crusader, one of the actual good knights in the deck. Give all of our stuff haste, and then we just turn everything sideways. So we had absolutely no right to win that one. The deck actually started functioning the way it should towards the end of the game there. But pretty much won that one because we went untested. Dolfo got off to a really good start and has obviously got a way more powerful deck than we have, as has Gogo. This Gallia deck is really, really good, and even the Etali deck was better than this one, so like I said, we had no right to win it, but oftentimes you can show up to a table with a weaker deck and people will ignore you because there's bigger threats at the table, which can allow you to pull the rug out from underneath everyone else, which is what happened today. So a lot of luck on our side there, but that was Kenrith, the returned king, Knight Tribal, on a budget list. And don't forget that these are $100 budget decks, and hopefully I'll be able to put the deck lists in the description if you want to see those. Be sure to let me know if you want to see any more budget decks. It's something that some of the patrons are very passionate about, so I'm assuming that some of the viewers will be as well. So you can let me know either way. Hit the thumbs up if you do want to see more content like this, and be sure to hit the subscribe button to keep up with all the latest content from yours truly. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.